Hey, Lucy.
Hi. Okay, it's working.
Yeah, what's up?
Not much. How are you?
Everything's good. You picked the right week to be in Kansas City.
I know it's so warm out. Thank God.
It's great.
It,
Yeah, it's hard to believe that last week it was below zero. Like it's living in this town, living in
I
Kansas City.
know. I know. The Midwest, baby.
Yeah, totally. Well, this is exciting. I saw the ad a few weeks ago at the Deborah Brown show for the Upcycle piano gig, and then you got the Folly gig. This has to feel good to come home and to do these gigs, right?
It feels fantastic. I mean, it feels really, really great. I'm so excited for tomorrow because I'm singing all of Dad's arrangements and we've had two rehearsals and they sound so good. I just was so impressed with the KCJO and with Dad.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be so much fun.
Have you been on the stage at the Folly? Have you played there yet?
I've only played in the smaller room, I think.
Okay.
But no, I haven't. And so I hope we have a good turnout and yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, I have no doubt you will. Yeah. I mean, you all are legendary here. I mean, so let me ask you this. What does the stage feel like? I mean, this is the thing. We have this long lineage of history in Kansas City, and your dad's firmly a part of that. I think April 16th is his day, right? That's coming up.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. So he's firmly in this lineage. You're in New York. You're coming back to this lineage. It's a hallowed stage. How does it feel to be on one of the more historic stages with your dad?
Yeah, so I haven't been there yet. I haven't seen it. I haven't been
Okay.
on, but um so we'll see tomorrow, but as of right now, it feels very special. Like you said, there's so much history here in Kansas City, and the Folly Theater is legendary and very historic, and it just feels, yeah, it feels like I'm carrying on the legacy of the history, and doing it with my dad is perfect because then we have the more personal history between us and our relationship, so it feels great.
What is the psychology of being in the hub of New York and coming back to this town and going back and forth? I know there's a lot of familial things going on with you playing with your father, but just in general, what does it mean psychologically to go back and forth between the town that you're familiar with and to the biggest town of jazz in the world?
It feels like I said this earlier. It feels trippy. It it feels it feels yeah, surreal. I mean, I moved out of Kansas City when I was still a really young teenager, so it's cool to like be in New York and learn so much and have all these amazing musicians around me and hone in on my skills and then bring them back home. Um, and I feel respected here. I know that Dad feels respected, and um, of course I do in New York as well. But it's very surreal. I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, yeah, no, it certainly does. And the one thing that's great about your story, and we talked over the pandemic, was that you started painting
yeah.
and started tapping into that level of creativity.
Mhm.
Now that we're in 2005, you've been doing this for some time now. How much is being an artist on canvas translated to you being a lyricist and being able to collaborate on stages with jazz musicians? How much of those intertwined?
I think, gosh, it's a hard question to answer. It's because it's a little vague and abstract. I mean, literally.
Yeah.
Um, I think all of the arts are sort of connected. I think just like in singing, I mean, sometimes in performing, you have to be comfortable with failing and falling flat on your face and singing the wrong notes or saying the wrong thing or making mistakes. And the same thing happens in painting. And I think I think they are both lessons in building confidence and my identity. And yeah, I just, yeah, I love it. I love both of them and just self expression in general. So I think the two kind of help one another in expressive ways, I guess.
Yeah. So it's obvious that your career is doing well. I mean, you come back here, you're going back, you're playing at premier clubs in New York. How do you feel like your career is going? Where are you at mentally with how things are going?
Well, my mental state fluctuates all the time. I feel like that's probably normal for an artist. I mean, also, it's just been like my career started in 2020 and I felt like I mean since it was the pandemic and I had just graduated I felt like okay, well my career is over before it even began. So I had a sort of unordinary beginning to my career. But the good thing is that I've had to sort of work harder and find my own way, and it hasn't been the most typical way. Um, I I do struggle like any other artist with feeling like I could be doing more and you know, like just the normal struggles. But overall, I'm so grateful. I am so happy that I am also taking my time and figuring out who I am as an artist and a singer. And it's cool to come back here and yeah, and continue to build my identity between here and New York. And yeah, so it's been great.
So I would imagine becoming an artist is a lot like, I mean, you're going after a dream, and it seems a little bit like for the layperson that's not an artist, it's like traveling. You have these notions of what the place is going to be like before you go, okay? But it's always different. There's always different adventures. The whole thing becomes different. It's like reading a book and then finally seeing the movie. There's a difference between both of those worlds. What has been the dream that you had of your career that's contrasted with what's actually taken place? How have those differed for you?
Well, nothing that I thought would happen has happened. I mean, it's been completely all over the place. Actually, it's been better than my dreams, I think. Like
Oh.
we've been my dad and I have been able to travel so much and like go to Asia and all over Europe, and that's been awesome. Yeah, I think part of the artist struggle is we think that one day we will find our voice and find our dream and our whatever our perfect career. But I think that our voice and our career is constantly evolving. It's not really finite. It's not um yeah, it's not some finite thing. So I think that is one of the harder things is like realizing that it's all ever evolving. My career, my art, what I have to say, I'm still figuring it out. So, and I'm never going to stop figuring it out. It's not going to be like one day I'm like, oh, I found out who I am. I found my voice and it's all how I pictured it, you know?
Yeah. What has been the most surprising thing about having a career and going between Kansas City and New York and just establishing yourself in this community?
I think, well, one of the surprising things is that I've been collaborating so much with my father. Like, I don't think a lot of people expected that. I mean, I didn't expect it to go so well, and we're working on a record together. That's something I really am excited about because we're inviting some other musicians to join us. So that'll be cool. But also travel. Like I didn't really expect to be traveling as much as I am. Yeah, traveling has become the side passion that comes along with performing, and it's just been amazing. I think travel is really good for an artist as well. So, yeah.
So clearly you learned and got this love for the music from your dad. I mean, that was the beginnings of you probably seeing this music.
Yeah.
And you see it from a different perspective when you're young, but now you've grown up and you're doing it yourself. What have you realized about who he is and his playing style and how he collaborates that you never would have known until you actually did it in a professional artistic sense?
That's a good question. Um, well, he and I sometimes have different ideas about things, different. I mean, there are so many things that we do share. Just, like we share so many styles of music, like interests in music. Um, I guess it surprised me actually how open-minded he is about more modern music, you know, because I guess as a kid I always thought, oh, he's more traditional, like strictly swing and stuff. But it's been cool to collaborate with him and just yeah, find other common influences and more modern music. And also older music that's totally out there and weird. And like we both share a love for Western swing and sort of really quirky music like Esquivel is super quirky and yeah, it's been cool to find each other's common interests and yeah.
So your itinerary while you're in town, obviously you and your dad are going to play at the Folly tomorrow night, 7 to 9 show.
Yeah.
And then Upcycle is going to be Sunday?
Upcycle is Tuesday.
Tuesday. So what else is going on? So if anybody wants to catch you while you're here.
Okay, I gotta think about this. So
Huh.
Sunday we've got Casey Beer.
Okay.
Monday we have a jam session. We're hosting a jam session at the Corbin Theater,
Okay.
Steve, and then Tuesday is Upcycle. And then we've got a few days off, and trying to think. After that, I'm not sure. I'll do Casey Beer with him on the Sundays that I'm here. I
Okay.
go back to work on March 16th.
Okay.
And then on one day we're doing the Loretta. I don't really
Okay.
know. Yeah, I'm not sure. Find out what day that is, but
So should they just go follow you on Facebook to get all this if they want all the details?
I think so. Yeah, follow me on Facebook. Yeah, Facebook. I think I posted all of it on Facebook. Yeah.
So Upcycle, I went to it a few weeks ago and saw Deborah Brown went there, which, Deborah's just, I mean, I don't think people understand what kind of jewel and diamond she is that's
Yeah.
in this town. So it's such a cool, like, the whole place is awesome. There's pianos everywhere. It just has a really good feeling to it. How did that gig come about? How does it feel to be able to go in there and have a gig?
Well, I know that my dad works on all the pianos there, so
Okay.
yeah, he has a long-standing relationship with them. And actually, we were just there. And yeah, dad was just checking in on his pianos. And yeah, it feels great. And also it's awesome that like I can walk into a place and trust that the pianos are gonna sound great
Uh-huh.
because I'm working on them. And it's also cool that Deborah Brown has been there, so I know that like they're bringing in amazing musicians around town. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
So there's a movie on Netflix called Norm's Famous Guitars. Have you heard about that place?
So
There's a dude in LA that has this guitar shop. It's vintage guitars, and everybody goes there. Slash, George Harrison's bought guitars from like everybody that's famous. Yeah. So I think about now that I'm watching that, I think Upcycle feels like that. It's like
yeah,
all of the musicians come in, it's comfortable. If you want to play, you can. They're going to be in tune. No one's going to get weird about you stepping in,
yeah,
unless you're some blue collar hack with a bad lid on a Coke. Don't
yeah,
don't do it. But
right.
but if you're playing and that's what you do, it just seems like an inviting environment that just
Yeah,
makes sense to go in there and have a gig.
absolutely. And I'm blessed in that way because dad has so many connections in this city. So I just kind of I'm very blessed that I can just kind of walk into a room and feel really comfortable,
Yeah.
especially that.
So I'm curious, what your dad has a day deemed April 16th. He's been around for a long time. He's very well respected in the world of jazz. Have you ever felt like when you began that you were going to be under his shadow and now you're coming out and you're Lucy, you're not Brahms' daughter? Has that ever been a psychological thing that you've thought about?
I think about it often, but it's never. I mean, I think other people might think about it a little more than I do. Other people might have concerns that maybe I need to um, flee the nest, and I need to. And but for me, it's the most beautiful thing to be collaborating with him because this is actually. I mean, we've been, making music together forever, but career wise and performance wise and collaborating in a more professional way, like this is pretty new. This is like we've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years, and that's pretty recent. So I, for me, it's the most beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I hope to be doing this, for as long as he's around, and that's also why I'm excited to do this record. I want to document what we're doing right now because I think this is a really important time for us. Yeah, I do think about it a lot. There's a little bit of the psychological stuff includes like, okay, maybe I'll never be able to find another piano player who gives me the same sort of yeah, like connection that I have with dad. And that's really tough. I feel like it can be a blessing and a curse sometimes because I do believe that there are other people out there that um, can can give me that feeling.
Yeah.
Um, but it's harder to find. I just have to search a bit harder. So yeah.
I don't know that we explored this in the first interview, but I'm curious, how do you interact with the stage? Does it feel like home? Do your nerves go away, or do you have nerves going in and then you get comfortable? What's your approach to when you actually go up there and the lights are on and the crowd's clapping?
It's a high. I think like being on a stage My I don't often get nerves actually. I used to. Now it's become sort of second nature because I'm grateful that I perform a lot and I perform a lot in New York. Um I mean, they come and go. Sometimes they come in the most random, unexpected like gig or small gig, and it's like, why am I nervous right now? What is this about? But the good thing about performing is that you have to be very present. I mean, you can't be thinking about 5 minutes ago. You can't be thinking about what's going to happen in the future. You can't be thinking about, oh my God, I'm gonna totally fail or pass out. You just have to be present with the
Yeah.
music, and that helps with calming the nerves. So music helps me stay present. And yeah, it's a total high. It feels amazing, and I can't wait for tomorrow because it'll be hopefully a large audience, and once it's a large audience like that, there's this new energy in the room where it's really powerful. I can't even really explain it. So I'm excited.
So I'm curious with the New York people. When you say I'm from Kansas City or I'm going back and I'm going to do a host of gigs, what do people say when that like Kansas City comes in their mind? What's their thought process?
Well, a lot of people's reactions are, "Oh my God, Kansas City! There's so much history there. It's got to be great going back there." And I agree. Yeah. I mean, and I'm still learning about the history here, you know. I love coming back. And yeah, and it's really fun for me. I'm enjoying every step of it. So, yeah.
So I would imagine growing up and being so close to Kansas City that sometimes it's like you're inside the peanut butter jar so you don't see the label on the outside. Do you sometimes think, do you even think about does the history of this town and you being a part of it and being etched into that lore, does that ever come into your mind?
I think like when I was younger, it was harder to, yeah, like exactly what you said. Like I was inside of it, and it was kind of just like it, it's just always around me, my environment. Like I was surrounded by jazz, and of course because of dad. Um, yeah, I think now as an adult, and I've been living in New York, you know, for 12 years or something. I think now it's more interesting for me to learn about the history of where I'm from as an adult, because I think as a kid it was just kind of there. And um, so yeah, it's interesting. And again, I'm still learning all the time. My mom has this book because she's from here. She has this book called Kansas City's Lost Architecture, and it's fascinating because they talk about these old brothels. Like there were like 400 brothels here in the early 1900s, and these jazz musicians would come through and play there. And I think it's fascinating history. It's a little bit like New Orleans. Um, yeah, and but as a kid, I didn't really grow up knowing a lot of that. I just kind of grew up with the sounds of
Yeah.
jazz. Yeah,
You're totally right. It is fascinating. Like, like the second floor of the Majestic
yeah,
is like where Pendergast hung out. All these places and
yeah.
these little vestibules and these little nuggets of knowledge. Like we were the Paris
Right.
of the Plains. We were the place.
We were, and it's funny that you mentioned the Majestic because I grew up singing there with dad, and now I get to come back here and knowing all of this now and singing there. It's really really fascinating. It's fun.
The one thing I think about your dad, and I've seen him enough that he goes on a tangent. He'll go on his way. And it's all lighthearted, and everybody in the band just knows that's my feeling as a non-musician. And I'm gonna orchestrate this question this way. I remember years ago I saw Chick Corea play with the Kansas City Symphony. This was like in '98. And
Wow.
I wasn't really into jazz, and thankfully, and I got to throw kudos. Your dad's a huge reason why the show exists. He's a huge reason why I love jazz. I saw him live with Tommy Ruskin. I saw the sweat and the passion of him loving this music, and he just seemed like he was literally coming through an old radio box.
Yeah.
The nasal of his voice, the microphone, the way he played, it was just like another world was opened up to me. But back to Chick Corea, he played with the symphony in '98, and I remember during that show, Chick was supposed to stop, and he just kept going, you know. And the conductor's just sitting there, and everybody's kind of like you can hear murmuring, and then there's laughter, and then there's loud applause.
Yeah.
Is your dad like that to play with, where he's going on his own thing? He is Brahm. He is no one else but him.
Yeah, I love that about my dad. It's like he can sometimes have really strict opinions about things, but you can't blame him. I mean, the guy knows what he likes. He's just going to be totally authentic to himself, whoever he wants to be, and you can either roll with it or not. I mean, I think we all kind of wish we had some of that energy. Like I don't really I don't have much of that, but I definitely am like him in the way that I'm a nonconformist and I like to make people laugh. And so,
Yeah, I think it's that my favorite quote from Charles Bukowski is we're born geniuses and buried idiots. And I think as you get older, you got to keep the walls down. You got to keep that wander and wanderlust about you and don't ever give it up, no matter how old you are. Because if you lose that kid-like sense of being just like, I don't care, I'm doing it because it feels good,
yeah.
you're going to start dying.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly how my dad puts it. I mean, he's like, I'm never gonna stop. I'm gonna stop when I'm dead. I'm
Yeah,
just keep learning, keep being inspired, and he is still a kid at heart, you know.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and it shines through. So the big show is tomorrow night at the Folly. Upcycle is going to be Tuesday. There's shows peppered in between. So if anyone out there wants to catch up with it, is Facebook the best place to go?
Facebook and my website, and I will once we hang up, I will make sure that everything is updated on my website. But my website is lucywinans.com. There's all my shows are up there. And yeah, and Facebook. Usually
Okay.
for Kansas City shows, I usually post on Facebook because, most of my people are on there. So
Yeah. Well, it's always so great to see you and to talk to you, and I feel more special about this time because I talked to so many people during the pandemic, and I kept thinking I can't wait to talk to them when there's shows and gigs and CDs. So before we get out of the proverbial digital door here, you're working on an album. Are you just in the abstract stages? Anything you can say?
Well, we are very much okay. I will say that it's being recorded in New York on March 22nd, so that's very soon. We still need to brainstorm some things. Um, it did start. The idea started as just a duo project, but we are inviting guests. We're inviting a pedal steel guitar player who lives in New York, and we are inviting Peter Schlam, who's here in Kansas City,
Wow.
play vibes. And so it's kind of an unordinary mix of instrumentation, which that was sort of my goal. I kind of want to do something really kind of weird and different, um,
Yeah.
and mix in, pepper in some different sounds, what me and dad do. So it's going to be a live album also in the studio. So people can come and listen while we record in a studio, so I'm curious to see what kind of energy that brings.
I'm so excited there's going to be vibes on it. That is like, if there's anything, I try to be objective about this craft, but I totally love the vibes. It's awesome.
Me too.
And Peter is just like, he's world class.
Peter has huge ears. I mean, he hears so much, and he's really inspiring, and we have fun, the three of us. So yeah.
Great. That's great. Well, hey, Lucy, it's great to catch up with you. Have a wonderful show, wonderful string of shows in Kansas City. And I am ecstatic. When I saw this was happening, I was like, oh my God, this is like the first visceral thought is this is going to be just wondrous. So have a,
Wait, I can't wait.
yeah, it's going to be wonderful. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking a minute out. And again, have great shows.
Thank you so much. Good to
Thank
talk
you.
to
Great talking to you. Cheers.
you. Bye.